Okay, here we go.
You're listening to East Leeds Community Radio.
Music,
writing,
reviews, debate,
Comedy,
plays, live events,
interviews,
quizzes,
sports,
chatting,
food,
poetry, open mics, freedom to create.
From the people to the people.
It's radio, but so much more. East Leeds Community Radio.
Hello, and welcome to the Vandal Factory Radio Show
/ podcast. I'm Henry Raby.
And my name's Natalie Quatermass, and together we are Vandal Factory. And that was very exciting because that's a brand new jingle for East Leeds Community Radio. I really enjoyed that. And we are back in the studio after a summer away.
Coming at you from Chapel FM Arts Centre in Seacroft in East Leeds.
And if you're new to this podcast, then Henry and I are theatre makers and artists and activists. And this is a podcast where we speak to lots of different people about creative forms of being political, of exploring social justice, of getting angry and getting hopeful. So speaking of which, Henry, how is your hope? How is your anger?
I've been quite hopeful lately because I am a performance poet, as well you know, Natalie.
Indeed I do.
And I haven't performed for a while because this thing called the old pandemic happened and it sort of stopped doing gigs. So I
don't know that you could still be using the pandemic as an excuse for not performing, Henry. But
this summer, because we're sort of a back to school post summer show.
Yeah.
I'm doing quite a lot of really fun gigs. I did Seacroft Arts Festival on the big Seacroft Green.
We're going to hear about that later.
We are indeedy do. And I did a gig for a mate of mine called Bar in his back garden.
Definitely do one of them at our house soon.
Yeah. Get a load of musicians round to just like gig. There was free courgettes.
Yes, I ate them. I fried them up actually because you gave me one. Fried them up with a bit of olive oil and mango powder. Goes lovely with a bit of fresh courgette. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. And the last gig that I did was at Greenbelt Festival. Shout out to them, which is it's sort of built on Christian principles, and there's a lot of religious talk, but it's also incredibly political and social justicey and progressive. And I did a workshop and a set, so massive thanks to the Rebel Rouser stage for having me do some stuff. So I sort of came out of the summer quite energized and I want to keep performing and writing and doing stuff, which is really exciting. I've not felt like that for a while. So yeah, a lot of hope in those gigs. Like, it's not just I sound like I've gone, I had a really nice time, but also like seeing people talk and perform and share stuff at these gigs is such an energizing experience. How's your hope / anger, Natalie?
Both are sky high. As we're about to hear in the rest of the show, we had lots of cause to be very angry this summer. The far right came to Seacroft and we attended a counter protest. So we'll be hearing some audio from that later on in the show. And also we did some amazing projects with some beautiful young people and community spaces in and around our local area. So that always fills me with joy and hope. And we're going to hear about that in Nat's Provocation Stations coming up. But I think we need a bit of music before we start any of that business, don't you, Hannes?
Yeah, so picture the scene, Natalie.
Yeah.
It's 10:30 on a Saturday at Greenbelt Festival. Henry's been there all day. He's just seen Josie Long read from her book, got it signed, and he's like, right, time to make the 2 to 3 hour drive home. But he walks past the Rebel Rouser stage and he's lured in by a bit of punk music being played on the PA, and he's like, oh, maybe I'll stick around to watch this band. Maybe I'll hang about for the first few songs. I'm pretty tired. They come on. They're an amazing queer feminist right girl punk rock band, and they absolutely smash it and blow it away. So I'm like, and very, very tiredly drove home with them in my head being like, yeah, cool bands. So they were called Problem Patterns, and I asked if they could record a little intro to their song, which is Letter of Resignation.
Hey Henry, this is Beverly from Problem Patterns. Thanks so much for coming to see our set at Greenbelt. Oh, it was so good. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And thanks for playing Letter of Resignation. In Problem Patterns we all switch roles and instruments, but this is the one I sing. It's about my experience with the Christian church, quitting it, and like I'm venting my frustrations at their judgmental attitudes towards queer people and like their hypocrisy. I don't know how it is in England, but there are way too many street preachers in Northern Ireland. Like, it's like you can't escape the hate speech sometimes, so this is like my rebuttal to them. Yeah, like they're pretending they're so happy and their religion is perfect, when in reality the way church leaders abuse their positions of authority is disgusting. So in the tune, I'm celebrating my departure from all that. Anyway, I've talked too much. Thanks for playing Letter of Resignation. Here we go.
chat train is pulling into Nat's provocation station.
Oh, yes, mate. It is time for Nat's Provocation Stations. And this part of the show, again, for those of you that don't know, I like to take the mic for a few minutes and usually chat about some kind of project or work that's been going on. And we dissect it a little bit. And this time, as I said earlier, we're going to be talking about a project that Henry and I both worked on during the summer with some young people in and around Seacroft, and the project was called Serving Up, and I've made a little audio documentary about it. So without further ado, here it is. Serving Up was a performance project that took place over 3 weeks during the summer holidays. It was a collaboration between the We Are Seacroft Collective and Unfolding Theatre. This project culminated in young people from Kentmere Community Centre and Chapel FM Arts Centre coming together to perform a play called Serving Up. The premise of this play is that young people have opened their very own restaurant where they're the ones in charge. They get to make up the rules and are welcoming the audience into their restaurant for the very first time. This story gave us a framework in which we could explore environmental and community issues that are important and relevant to the young performers. In the first week, the young people from Kentmere Community Centre walked to the Seacroft Forest Garden. This is a garden that's been built by local people involved with the community group Climate Action Seacroft. They've nurtured a once disregarded bit of land and turned it into an amazing forest garden where there's growing fruit trees, bushes, herbs and vegetables. It serves the community and nature alike.
And they are ripe, that's Natalie about it. If they are ripe, you can pick it. Alright? Don't pick the apples and the pears yet because they're not ripe. But the little bushes you might find some stuff on there. Okay? And down there there's some wild strawberries. If you find a strawberry down there, you can eat that and all. Alright? This garden is made for Seacroft. Alright? It's made for you to come in, sit down and eat the stuff that's in here.
The thing I learned about the Forest Garden was exploring all the wildlife and all the new plants and all the animals and all the flowers and trying new things.
What I enjoyed about the forest garden is all the nature and all the butterflies and all the things like I've never seen sometimes. I didn't even know that licorice you could grow. And the favourite thing I saw in the forest garden was trying the wild blueberries, but they're like wild instead of store-bought.
It made me feel like really happy, and I love to be in like wildlife and trying about all the animals.
It made me seeing it all. It made me just wonder why is the world just different? Like one corner's really healthy and no rubbish on the floor, and then the other side of the planet is just junk everywhere. So it made me wonder. I don't understand. Why would I have many people like that? Who care?
As well as going to the forest garden, we also went litter picking around the LS14 Trust Community Cafe. We learnt about what goes into running a community food pantry and a local cafe, as well as a local recycling hub. Each day we were taking all these experiences relating to food, the environment, our community, and starting to discuss and reflect and then create scenes and sketches, which we would then feed in to this story about opening our own restaurant.
Yeah.
During the second week of this Serving Up project, we were joined by artists from Unfolding Theatre. We started to take a deeper look into the characters and the storyline in our play.
What we've been talking about is basically how we're basically making a performance about a new restaurant which just opened, and in this restaurant the kids own it and they run it and stuff. And they've hired 2 adults to help them with the stuff, but the adults let them down by possibly maybe putting the wrong ingredients in, or there's been pollution, and when we get the food, we open like a massive box, and the pollution is just everywhere in the food, and it's horrible.
We knew that at some point in our performance, the people in charge, the ones delivering the ingredients to the restaurant, they would need to somehow let down the young people on their opening night. So we asked our young performers if you could say something to the people in charge, the grown-ups in your life, what would you say? And they came up with this.
yourself out of bed and do your job. Stop being lazy, and that we're only children, we need good role models. Got to say thanks for watching TV.
You never give us a chance.
Stop being tired.
You never listen.
Listen, because if you're not going to listen, then basically you're not going to get the right things. Only because you're older don't mean that you know better.
Stop breaking pinky promises.
We deserve better! We demand more! We deserve better! We demand more!
Stop being rude, respect others.
Don't tell me to shut up because we can be right sometimes.
Get off, stop watching TV and come and play with us.
Don't waste your money on stuff you don't need when you can't use your money to help others in need.
We deserve better! We demand more! We deserve better! We demand more!
In the third week of the Serving Up project, whilst our group at Kentmere Community Centre continued to rehearse with the Unfolding Theatre team, I began working up the road with the creative team and young people at Chapel FM Arts Centre. In our performance, the Chapel FM young people would act as visiting artists, hired to entertain the guests on the restaurant's opening night. And, just like the Kentmere group, their performances would be inspired by the Seacroft Forest Garden. This group of young people had 3 specific scenes to create. The first scene would be a band that would entertain the audience whilst the chefs were waiting for the ingredients to arrive. The second scene was a protest, fueled by the ingredients arriving late. And when they finally did arrive, they were polluted and too small, and there wasn't enough. So the chefs couldn't use it in the restaurant.
Are you listening? Are you listening? What is a lie? Everything is okay. What is a lie? We are supported. What is a lie? We're not eating up. What is a lie? Everyone has an evil chance.
They say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
They say to slap on some elbow grease.
They say, just ignore it.
They say, keep calm and carry on.
They say we can't afford to feed everyone.
No, of course not.
People don't deserve to starve.
We want more, we want.
People don't deserve to starve.
This is truth, not a dream.
People don't deserve to starve.
We want more, we want it clean.
People don't deserve to starve.
This is truth, not a dream.
People don't deserve to starve.
We want more, we want it clean.
People don't deserve to starve.
This is truth, not a dream.
People don't deserve to starve.
We want more, we want it clean.
People don't deserve to starve.
This is truth, not a dream.
People don't deserve to starve.
We want more, we
For the third scene, the invited artists would burst onto the stage carrying super fresh ingredients straight from the Seacroft Forest Garden. when everything had gone wrong and the ingredients had been delivered were too polluted and too small to cook with, the artists didn't abandon their new restaurant, but turned to their community for support.
You choose not to entertain. You choose to enforce rarity. You tear apart society. However, we can end food scarcity.
Yeah! How do we rebuild? How do we reconnect? How do we redefine?
We need to work in unity to better our community. We need to be the catalyst to end the rich's iron fist.
Yeah! We need a brand new recipe. Change society, rewrite history. Let's come together in unity.
Yes.
Yes!
Community is the soil of humanity. Community is the lungs of our planet. Community is a sapling growing into something bigger.
Woo! The future is our new reality. The future is like to come. The future is now!
At the end of the week, I was curious to speak to a few of the young people and see what their thoughts were on the week and the production they'd created.
I think it's about community and how we all have to work together for like everything to be okay and like help people who need help.
It's about culture and community.
I think it's also about sort of helping ourselves and not depending on the government because they're not really going to help us. We have to grow our own food.
It's kind of like a metaphor for wide society, like acting as a microcosm that reflects wide society and the problems it has.
It could be about like people trying to solve problems by working together rather than on their own.
I like the line about the lie that everyone has an equal chance. I think to me it's about telling the audience about what's been fed to them isn't actually true. It's kind of to blind them and sort of, to me it's kind of like opening their eyes.
It's like we're creating this to protest the fact that not everyone is equal in this sort of world we live in, and the fact that everyone does deserve a chance to be able to actually live and like do things with their life rather than being stuck in a situation that maybe restricts them from being able to do what they enjoy.
This is actually quite new to me, protesting. I mean, of course I've heard of it before and I've seen people protesting. I've never really been part of a protest. I quite like it. I feel like you don't have the usual boundaries of, you can say what you want to rather than saying what people expect you to say.
808 verse. Sometimes all you need is the seeds and the tools. If the old way don't work, need a new set of rules. We just wanna do it our way and they say that we're fools. Say we should stick to the books and the tests in the schools. I don't think so. I came here just to give you this info. First night, don't know what your info. Opening night, on opening night. 808 different dishes, serving hits, depending what the season is. We give you what you need to live with super fresh ingredients. Different dishes, serving hits, depending what the season is. We give you what you need to live with super fresh ingredients. With super fresh ingredients. Super fresh ingredients. With super fresh ingredients. Super fresh ingredients. 808 verb. Oh, you can't eat this or that, that's fine. We got a menu for that. No meat, no dairy, no gluten. Don't worry, we'll find a solution. Whatever your dreams are. I mean, I'm talking ice cream, not a new car. And I know we don't look like much, or at least we don't look like you, or at least we don't look like how things usually do. But maybe that's a good thing. Let's get it started, let the bells ring. Put an order in, see what the chef bring. 808 different dishes, serving hits, depending what the season is. We give you what you need to live with super fresh ingredients. Different dishes, serving hits, depending what the season is. We give you what you need to live with super fresh ingredients. With super fresh ingredients. Super fresh ingredients. With super fresh ingredients. Super fresh ingredients. 808 verb.
there we have it. Henry Raby, super fresh ingredients. That was Kate Grayson, who was commissioned by Unfolding the Theatre to write that. I'm going to class that as my banger of the hour. And that was also a song that Kay performed and alongside all the young people in the cast for our Serving Up performance. And it was stuck in my head all summer long, and I think actually it just might be my favourite song ever.
How many times?
So much.
How many times did you cry during this project, Natalie, where you were bringing young people together to talk about food and community?
It was the best. We had such a good time. There was a moment when I can't remember. There was one line. You know, sometimes in rehearsals, there's just young people are so surprising. It's why it's like just wonderful to work with them always. And there's moments when they'll say something and it comes straight from the heart, like there's just a connection, and the words and what we've been talking about and the discussions and the places, and it all kind of clicks for one person, and they come up with a line that just breaks my heart. And there was a moment when that happened and you turned around to me and was like, is this the best moment of your life? Is this what your career's been building up to? And I was like, yes! And I'm being an emotional mess and they're sort of rolling their eyes at us. It was good, wasn't it?
It was great. And I think that the young people I worked with, the older group, and they're so political and switched on and clued up. Like, we have ideas, but like they were the ones that wanted to talk about, and you know, they were on that recording, very politicized and angry and thoughtful. Yeah, absolutely. And that's from visiting a garden. You know, it really is not. The stimulus is there. Like they're ready to burst with the injustices that they've sort of grown up with. They're very aware. I've been reflecting on like, what do you do next? Because I think a lot of the time projects like this happen and then they do these amazing performances and the parents and families and friends go, yay, brilliant. And then it all crumbles. And I really try and make my work that we do in this context have a legacy beyond that by mostly by getting local people who are also doing climate work and who are like building the garden or who are doing the recycling or whatever the project is, like have them in the audience and have them then talk to the performers. And I think like that's how you have the connections continue. That's not always possible. Like practicalities was we had more family members that wanted to come see the show than we had space for. So like that wasn't particularly possible in this project. But then I think that's why like doing things like looking into making an audio documentary like that piece we've just heard or doing a film one, and where do you send that next, especially in an area like this where there's so much negative press about young people and so much that the places like Seacroft that have a very low self-esteem about themselves. There's like a collective low self-esteem and like we don't deserve any better and it's rubbish to live here and look at all this stuff. I live here, by the way, if people are like listening going, why is she slacking off this place? No, I live here. And love it.
Yeah,
we
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a choice for me to live here, which lots of people don't like. It's not a choice for them, but it is. The legacy continues within those young people who hopefully you're kind of encouraging and nourishing those political minds, and you're talking about connecting and looking after your community and showing up and being in solidarity with nature and place and your neighbours and all that kind of stuff. You hope that then continues and is influential as they grow up, and that's sort of, it's very difficult to measure that. But I'm really interested in how we go beyond just creating political theatre for the audience and then it dying. Because I'm sure that like if you took most youth theatre across the country, there's going to be lots of it that's pretty, ensemble based. It's talking about community. It's talking about injustices that young people have to face. So like what we're doing with that and how we essentially turning it into a political movement, I think, is what I'm trying to ask. And how do we turn it into direct action, really? Have it exist beyond that? Because we've had to take some direct action a little bit this summer, didn't we, Hannah?
Did a little bit of the old DA. So as well as some very positive things that have been happening in Seacroft over the summer, such as the Seacroft Arts Festival and this project we've been doing with young people, there have been some very negative things happening, namely the far right turned up.
Yeah.
Do you know about the far right?
Oh yeah,
old fashy Miggy.
Yeah.
Old fashos.
Yeah, they were. So we went to a counter demo, and there was way more of us than there was of them.
Can confirm. So we bumped into our good friend Chris Singleton.
Oh,
who
yeah.
is from Brave Words. He's a theatre maker and a poet, and has appeared on the Vinyl Factory podcast episode 2.
Oh,
So you
good
can-
skills for knowing the episode number.
You can go and check out his chat there. But we recorded a little sort of post-match analysis of the demo that we're going to play now from back then.
And you're more than welcome here, and you're more than welcome here, 'cause we're citizens of the world. Spread wide and down, our nation's roots spread wide and down, our nation's roots spread wide and down, 'cause we're citizens of the world. And you're more than welcome here, and you're more than welcome here, and you're more than welcome here, 'cause we're citizens of the world.
Ooh, not a big fan.
Well, we've just
Oh, that's all.
well, we've just come back from a big old demo in Seacroft, and we're joined by Chris Singleton.
Hiya.
It was a demo against you, wasn't it, Chris?
It was purely against me. The people of Seacroft rose up to overthrow my tyranny.
Yeah.
I know. Now that we've come back, I do start to feel a bit bad about it, Chris. I'm sorry. It felt like a lot against one, to be honest.
No, it's fine because I was there on the demo against me. I was also.
No more, Chris. No more, Chris.
Yeah, I
no
started
more,
the chat.
Chris.
It was great.
Yeah. No, we've just come back from a demo because far-right groups, different factions, bad uns, have called a demonstration against...
Wrong-uns they are, aren't they?
Ooh, right, wrong-uns then.
They are opposing the refugees in the Britannia Hotel in Seacroft, and generally that links into them hating refugees, asylum seekers, immigrants, trans people, women, anyone that's different, anyone that doesn't fit into their flag-waving...
defined tiny group of...
white nationalism.
Tiny group.
So to paint the scene, there was like 50 of them, mostly blokes.
Outside the pub, as soon as me and Henry arrived, that was our first thing. Was like, they've cornered the section with the pub in it.
Is there nothing these people won't sink to take away our
That's the
pub?
final straw.
Waving massive Union Jack flags and with like phrases like "no more immigration, refugees out." One bloke looked like Mr. Toad. Like, what you said, he's like judging a horse competition.
Like he was judging a horse competition.
Oh,
He
really?
genuinely, I swear he had little rosettes on him and everything. Like,
Tweed!
ready to
Little
judge.
tweed and wellies.
He'd won racism.
My favourite. Oh, the most racist horse of the day. No, it was the one with that had brought his Leeds United flag, which always upsets me as a Leeds fan, but doubly so, like, you know, when I'm there. When he had the blue and yellow trailing from his Yorkshire flag and was making all his lovely anti-immigration, anti-refugee chants, and I was like, those are the Ukrainian colours. I was like, that's really unfortunate for you. I don't know if he knew or not.
So
So the counter demo.
Yeah, Stand Up to
was-
Racism organised one. Lots of different trade unions were there. Someone from Trans Leeds spoke.
They spoke brilliantly, as did the local Reverend Anne, she was one of my favourite speakers, I think, who said something really I didn't know before, which is that the churches in Seacroft not only are like some of the oldest buildings standing, but the new ones in the 50s were built by local people. So it was just 3 couples sat in the front room going, we could really do with a church around here. And then they just, everyone put in their tuppence to build a community building. And they So she was talking about standing with working people and standing with everyone.
And they do good work, like lots of work in the community as a church.
Yeah. And food banks and all sorts.
How many tuppences does a church cost? That's my takeaway from this.
Yeah, we should find out.
How many tuppences would you need? Is a tuppence worth tuppence now? Is it worth multiple tuppences? I feel like I'm derailing.
Tuppenny.
Tuppenny.
But we've been sat here doing the usual post-protest breakdown. It's always a mixture of feelings, isn't it? About what have we just done? What's happened there? I mean, what did happen is that we marched away from the village green, up to the hotel, and sung lots of positive songs and positive chants. A brilliant chant that was made up by someone about, what was it? Welcome, Britannia.
Britannia refugees.
We will. I can't. I'm doing the real one.
You are welcome here. Overseas.
That's it. Yeah. We'll get the audio.
Welcome, Britannia, Britannia refugees. You are welcome here from overseas.
Woo!
Very good. What did you think of that, Henry?
Proper banging.
I was behind the people that made the chant up when they were doing it, and you guys were on the front line with a flag, waving it very firmly at cars and people. You weren't. You were just.
It's great when we get people honking support.
Yeah, there was lots of honking.
A lot less great when people shout wankers out their window and do their little stick two fingers up
and then go round the roundabout to come again to do it again.
Anyway, my point was it was really nice. It was like a group of 3 or 4 friends, I think, who'd all come together, and they were all trying to find the right words. And then one of them was like, "Overseas, overseas!" And it was this wonderful
it was great. I think it's the greatest moment in the history of the left-wing movement.
I would say so. It's definitely up there.
And then the right wing, the far right, came for their march and just went round one of the small roundabouts, but we were sort of in between them and the hotel. So the main thing is that we're hoping that positive chants were heard and over the ones that were filled full of hate.
There were certainly some faces waving from windows at the hotel, which is nice to see.
And we got a couple of messages sent through that was read out on the megaphone.
Care for Calais have been working with those guys in the Britannia Hotel, and we'll have connections to them, and I'm sure they'll feel less.
They have a WhatsApp group, I think, that connects to lots of people in the hotel.
So it's almost like, I don't know, we're theatre makers. We come to this language of audience, who was this for? Well, it's for the refugees to feel like they are supported and loved and welcome. It's for the far right to feel like they're not welcome and they didn't manage to march up as far as they did before, and that they were opposed. And I think there were less of them than when they marched back in February, and I came and watched, and there was no opposition to them. It's also for us to feel like we're united and connected, and even though all the speeches, we sort of all know it, we all broadly agree that it's a bit of a revitalise and a reminder of to keep going for it. In terms of the people of Seacroft, well, pro and against, I don't know if we change any minds, but I also don't know.
That's the conversation, isn't it? I don't think the protest is there to change anyone's mind. She's certainly not going to change anyone's mind who's on the other side. I also think there's a strong argument for, which has been happening amongst various organisations and people who work around here, that to have a counter protest isn't that useful, and that having certainly there can be really strong language used by certain unions and stuff about come and counter the Nazis and stuff. So if you've got someone who's maybe not very political, who's just a working person or struggling on the streets, and they're maybe just hear that, if someone's I do think that we should put us first before other people, that, you hear that rhetoric around because it's there's a lot of council housing around here, there's loads of people who can't get jobs, so that is the sense, that's why the far right are dangerous here, is because they can stoke up this they're the problem, the people in the hotel, they've been given a hotel, but you haven't been given a council house. So that then jumping into that with language or come and counteract the Nazis, even if they, like, that might be true on some level, can be problematic. And certainly if you're talking about, like, changing people's minds, like working on the grassroots and working in communities through trying to feed people, like get them skilled up, getting people connected with their neighbours, like all that kind of soft stuff that we do a lot of, that's the stuff that prevents people being gravitating towards far right groups and leanings, I think, far more than a protest will. That doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. You know, I still went and but that's just like, I don't think that's the purpose of a protest. As you say, the purpose is to like demonstrate. It's a demonstration. It's a physical demonstration that there is an alternative other than the patriotic alternative.
I'd like to hear from Chris Singleton.
I was going to confirm what Nat was saying about, like, yes, there is a purpose to protest and to being there, I think, which is, for me...
But now you're going to disagree!
Now I'm going to say it was all rubbish! No, I'm really glad that you turned out to protest against me. That was... for me, personally, it was being that extra wall, extra protection, or extra show of solidarity just for the people in the hotel of going, actually, no, we're here and we care enough to come out and not stop this, because we can't stop the far right from being there, but to offer something alternative, to make sure that their voices were definitely not the loudest voices that were out in Seacroft today. And like you said, they kind of went round the roundabout, turned away and went back. Whereas had we not been there, all of those grass verges could have been used by them in high visibility of the hotel, within audible range of the hotel. They could have stayed there for however long they.
Yeah. We definitely claimed the much more visible spaces, people driving past.
What would you call that? Like a dual carriageway with two. We're in between two major roundabouts, aren't we? That go from North Leeds towards York and like along the ring road and that. So it's a very visible spot. Wait, Henry, you said something interesting before. For the first time ever.
Whoa!
And it was about... I can't remember what I was going to say now.
Whoa!
I got too distracted by making a dig.
It was a good bit there, to be fair.
I will say, like, I think we get bogged down in speeches, and I think it is nice that different perspectives, different people have their say. They're all saying the right thing, and we all agree and clap. But I think a couple of speeches... 10 minutes of banging tunes.
Absolutely.
And then some speeches, some songs. Like, especially as there's lots of Seacroft kids were like hovering around, put on some grime, some Bangra, some music that comes from immigrant communities to like show that isn't this a glorious thing. They played Dolly Parton and the Style Council. No, I love Dolly Parton and I love the Style Council, but like those Seacroft kids would have responded so much if we were the side playing Stormzy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what 8-year-olds listen to. Well, thank you for joining us, Chris Singleton.
I mean, I came for the tea and I stayed for the chat.
What are you up to? Go on, give yourself a little plug. Bearing in mind this will probably go out in October.
That's perfect timing, actually, because Brave Words' next play is on in November. So it's called Mutton, and it's about Mary Bateman, who was a witch in Leeds, but it's also about the communities of Leeds and how living under a political system that doesn't listen to us and doesn't value us can make us into less empathetic people.
I can't relate to that. That's a curveball out of nowhere.
It's completely irrelevant to
Where
today.
can people find out more about Mutton?
It is on our website, bravewords.co.uk/mutton, and it'll be on at Chapel FM in Seacroft, which is, of course, very relevant to now, and also 3 other places across the area.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
The left thanks you. Wait, Henry, you said something interesting before. For the first time ever.
Whoa!
Oh, my goodness.
He's doing his own thing!
That is amazing.
Do you like my little jingle?
Oh, yeah. That's brilliant. I'm going to play it one more time. for people listening at home. So Henry doesn't always let me listen to the jingles, especially if he's made a new one. He likes to surprise me live on air, and that's a corker. Let's play it again. Wait, Henry, you said something interesting before. For the first time ever.
Whoa!
Oh my goodness.
He's doing his own
Brilliant. Brilliant. Go on, tell everyone at home, what is it? Why are you doing your own thing?
I'm going to read a poem that I've written, Natalie.
Yeah, okay, go on.
And this one is inspired by the protest that we just talked about.
By the far right.
Yeah, it's a fascist poem, an anti-fascist poem, not a pro-fascist poem. It's called When the Fascists Came to Seacroft, and I'm going to read it out for you. Is that okay?
That's all right. We should also say that you performed this live on the We Art Seacroft on the Village Green, just mere meters from the spot where the far-right protest had occurred. And it was also on the same day when our Serving Up performance had happened. So a lot of the young people that had been part of that project then came up and saw you perform amongst the older ones who were like on it and kind of know what fascism is. And like, it's okay for them to...
fascism!
No. The old ones came along and cheered you on, didn't they? Your little fan club.
Little fan club. That's okay. But, you know, we're not radicalising young people.
Nope.
That's TikTok's job.
We're just saying fascism's bad.
Yes.
Which it is.
I'll tell you a story when the fascists came to Seacroft and we saw them off by tea. Prices keep on rising into the stratosphere, bills pierced with fear, services getting squeezed, 13 years of austerity tears. So the PM, Mr. Sunak, losing swathes of votes to keep his investments afloat, calls it building back better to turn back channel crossing boats. Over to the elites in power who play the same old game, hiding and seeking a foe to blame, using English tongues to lash the language of black shirts, National Front, the BNP, the EDL, it's all the same. A daily brain-rotting racist tirade against immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers for the cul-de-sac middle-class vote-swinging voices decrying, "Oh dear, what is to be done?" to the working class already scrapped by billionaires' tough choices. It's called divide and rule, but we are all people. No state and government can brand a human being illegal. So on sunny Saturday in August, the fascists came to Seacroft, like boozed-up bulldogs practising barking as an incentive. Their flyer advertised free parking. They've been watching too many war films, saving themselves for an imagined crusade. What a waste of a summer's day to descend onto someone's home and scream at a hotel. So the fascists turned up like they owned the neighbourhood. To make it even worse, we couldn't drink in our local pub. These visitors called themselves men of honour, men of action, making Seacroft better by recruiting for their private factions. Then the vibe was really stinking. They shipped in a speaker from Lincoln who spluttered about our people to the nodding white faces. Well, my people don't spend their Saturday spreading lies with hate up to their eyes, pumped up with cheers for each smear. The filth he said about innocent people, I won't repeat here. He stomped around the streets demanding to sink the boats, crossing the channel, drowning folks whose only crime ignoring imaginary lines, fleeing Western bombs, economic hardship, climate breakdown or persecution. The only thing the racists giving Seacroft that day was gobfuls of air pollution. On the other side, normal people rallied. The racists played Vera Lynn while we had Bob Marley, though not in person, unfortunately. Sung Irish songs, shared cakes, told their stories about racism, about Christian charity, LGBTQ plus folks and trade unionists too, councillors and retirees and commoners to boot. So raise a fist and say everyone is welcome here, though with the odd exception, and point to the true enemy, profit, power, hate, cuts, the real landscape of deception. The powerful cast down crumbs to carve up our world in pointless competition. So the fascists had a piddly wonder, skulked around the roundabout, calling a handful a whole invasion. I don't believe it is a right to march to a sight and glory in intimidation. And in the gutters of social media, I was told, "Will you call anyone who disagrees with you far right?" Listen, the organiser of the demonstration, a Poundland Oswald Mosley, tars himself with the far right brand boldly, calling immigration and invasion parading in plastic union flags. I call them the far right because if it looks like a racist duck and quacks like a racist duck, it's probably a racist duck. For the record, I don't have anything against ducks. They're great. So the leader of the opposition, Mr. Starmer must have misread his job description. Seems to think that reheating lukewarm hostile environment policy is vote-winning professionalism. Mr. Starmer agrees with his blue friends, just would do it better, and the politicians will sneer and shake hands and compliment each other on another race ran. I am not a hippie. We have never sung Kumbaya together. I am not apolitical. One side is worse than the other. I won't roll over. I believe we need resistance. And I'm not a centrist. I get splinters from the fence. I'm not a liberal because I don't see their point of view. And I will not be limited. I see a world with enough for all. I'll be honest, I'm not a patriot. No love for the red, white and blue. But like my grandpa, I'm an anti-fascist. And hopefully, so are you.
Yeah! It's a banger!
If you're interested in more chat about anti-fascism, you should check out our first episode where we talked to Rick Blackman about his book about music movements fighting against fascism in the 50s, 70s and modern day. And you should also check out the episode titled Getting Hot in Here and I Am Dead Inside, where we talked to Sharon Bailey from the Battle of Stockton campaign. This is a song by Daves. It's called Get Out of My City, and it's about when the EDL showed up in Leeds and they got a similar response from local people telling fascists to F off. Or change your views, you fascist
madam.
Baddens.
How was your trip to Edinburgh Fringe Festival, Henry?
Oh, I had a lovely time.
Did you?
I felt
Energized.
Energized.
Lovely. Give a big old shout out to some of the shows you saw, please.
Saskia Solomon's show Fool's Gold, about inequality bounding between the comically daft and deftly political. It's a show for the late capitalist clown. Saskia is a chaotic jester that we all need in our lives. I went to see Shan Doxey's Pull Yourself Together, bisexual millennial madcap fun, raging and dancing against the gloom. Shan does literal pole dancing on stage, but it's about not letting the dread win. How do you feel about dread?
Oh God, I could have a bath in dread every morning and every night. Not letting the dread win. A bisexual millennial, you say? Oh, that sounds good.
After the act by Breach Theatre was about Section 28 in the 1980s, using verbatim recorded audio from people, from LGBTQ people during the 1980s. It was a sledgehammer show. Man, people were in tears. Tender, raging stories about contemptible Tory policy and needing to fight against the new Section 28, attacking people across the LGBTQ spectrum, but especially against trans people. I really enjoyed Salty Arena, which was by Thistle Rose Arts, which was this pacey story about two young women who infiltrate an anti-fascist festival to try and find a little bit more about their plans, which feels very relevant to what we've talked about today. And I proper loved a show called Dugsy Days by Side Eye Productions, which was about 4 Muslim teenagers who were in detention. It's like the Breakfast Club. Young
there for 24 hours, weren't you? You've done well there, mate.
I was very tired.
I bet you were. You've absolutely smashed that. Sounds like you've had an excellent time.
Well, there's one other show that I went to see, which was Dual by a lovely person called Peyvand, and I recorded an interview with her straight as she jumped off the stage, grabbed her at the Pleasance, bought her a bevy, and was like, right, what is Dual all about? So
you bought someone a bevy? My gosh, it must have been a good show. Crikey. Did your wallet, the dust puff out of it?
Especially at Edinburgh Fringe Festival prices.
Bloody
hell.
How much?
That's why I'm living.
Crikey. So there's the interview, yeah?
So my name's Peyvand Sadeghian. I can't even say my own name, sorry, I'm a bit fried. Let me start that again. My name's Peyvand Sadeghian. Obviously that's my vibe because I'm just being a bit of a scatterbrain straight off stage. But yeah, as you can hear, I'm a Cockney. I'm into punk and oi and theatre, which is a weird mix. And I like cats, yeah.
What's your favourite type of cat?
Oh, do you know what? I really love a little street cat moggy that's just a bit bolshy and friendly. Or tells you to fuck off.
So it's day 2 of your show here. Now, I've been, in my ignorance, calling it Dual, but it's not called Dual. It's got a longer title than that. So what's it like, day 2 of bringing the show up to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival?
Yeah, so, it's DUALDوGانE, but it's not something that I'm, holding against people, because unless you read Farsi, then you wouldn't necessarily know. Yeah, day 2 was definitely, I feel like I've arrived. Yesterday was just manic. So it's just nice to kind of get it out in front of an audience after literally months of putting in the work for it. So yeah, just remembering why I'm doing it and why I've been tired and lacking sleep for months as well. So.
Well, it's not just months, it's years, because you said the show it started in 2019. So can we go back, what was the catalyst to go, I want to tell this story?
Yeah, so it's one of those things I'd had in my mind for a little while, but I think the thing that really spurred me towards it was people sort of, around that time, a lot of people were sort of going on about their passports, a lot of British people being like, oh, you're so lucky, you've got a second passport. It's like, yeah, depends. I don't know if the Iranian passport was that useful. And then also people that had EU passports having to suddenly sort their residency status out and all this everyone kind of being up in arms about it for one reason or another. And so that's, I think, what was do you know what, let's talk about passports, but from my specific point of view. So yeah, it uses that to hopefully springboard into a wider point of relation, I think.
So the show's about, well, lots of things, but things I took away are about duality, identity. You talk about being a stateless person, but also that relationship with people say, when are you going back to Iran when you were born in the UK? Yeah. So I suppose over the last 4 years, how have you sort of started interrogating these themes?
Yeah, I think I was really keen to look at, because you get a lot of plays about identity or identity politics and that's all valid, but this is literally the politics of identity, as in the papers that you've got and that you're entitled to, and the changes that can literally the rug getting pulled from underneath you. And a lot of people don't realise, I didn't realise, that you're not, just because you're born in the UK, you're born a British citizen. And it wasn't until literally when I was going on holiday with my mates in my late teens that I was like, oh shit, wait, I'm not, what? Why have I got these papers saying that I'm not working when I'm 1 year old? And what? I was already at primary school and this paper's saying that I'm still not a British citizen. Just stuff that absolutely baffled me. So that's kind of what like the angle I'm sort of coming at it from, and then so I kind of naturalised and I got my British passport, and then I went to Iran, and then they're like, no, you're Iranian, and because their laws by blood, so it's like if you've got a parent, a dad, some paternal line, then you are, as far as they are concerned, Iranian. So I've got those two passports. Can't get rid of the Iranian one, really. In theory you can. In practice it's not actually doable. And then in the meanwhile, like in the past few years in the UK, you've got cases of the government sort of passing laws that mean that if you've got any ties to any other country that's not the UK, you can potentially have your British citizenship stripped. And that's, even with Shaheen Begum, not that she's the most likeable person on earth, but she actually wasn't even a Bangladeshi citizen or entitled to one, and yet there was the assumption of like, well, if we take the British passport off you, you can be their problem. And it's like, well, that's not really. There's a duty. If you are. It is a human right to have a passport and to have protection of citizenship. There is part of me that like hopes that there's kind of mixed Iranian diasporas that come and see it as well, but the team behind it there's a few of us that are Iranian, there's a few of us that aren't, and everyone has their own kind of point of contact with the subject matter. So I think in making it was about making all these different points or offers for audiences at different intersections, I suppose, to relate to, which is why there's chunks of it that are in Farsi, and you're not expected to understand all of it all the time, and I think that's kind of where we've come from. So don't come and see it if you don't like hearing other languages. It's probably not for you.
If I were to walk into your rehearsal room halfway through the process, halfway through the day, what would I see? What's going on in that room to create this place? Because it's a really mischievous show. I think it's playful, like you say. There's like so much fusion of different language. But there's bits of puppetry and a bit of dance, a bit of movement. There's lots of. It's almost like lots of fun sketches bottled together. Projection. I'm telling you what's in your show. You know this. This is for the listener. But like, what would I expect walking into that rehearsal room?
So sometimes there'd be some quite lively discussions about, because I'm writing it and in it, so I can never be outside of it. So the outside eyes, be it the directors or the other creatives, were really important. So there'd be times of like, oh, I'm getting this from that, and I'll be like, that is not what I'm going for. Let's go back to the drawing board on that. And because it's not linear in its narrative, so there's lots of changing of orders of things, lots of me coming up with ideas and going, can we just try it? Because there'd be a lot of like raised eyebrows, being like, and then trying it, and either it'd work or it did. So a lot of experimenting. Also just a lot of me being very confused and like literally not even know my own name sometimes, because it's one of those bewildering sort of things if you're in it. So yeah, kind of having people on the outside grounding me and being like, yeah, this is happening now. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm glad someone's on it. So yeah, like really genuinely collaborative. Sometimes Al, the video designer, being like, mate, that's like a 2-week job to make that video, so that's not gonna so like those sort of negotiations, like with the sound and stuff as well. So yeah, really sort of lots of back and forth, lots of conversations and collaborations and offers, really just trying stuff out.
I love the mischievousness with the audience. There's a playfulness at getting them to do things, to respond, to be part of it.
It's like the first things I did with it was actually just test the interactive elements out. And even though I didn't have the content for them, I was sort of testing concept, because it is really important for me to be like, look, we're all in a room together. There's no fourth wall. I'm not just telling you this story about when I was a kid and got stuck in Iran. It's about us literally being here right now, and you offering something and doing some of the work, because I ain't got all the answers, that's for sure. So, that was always really, really important, I think.
As a theatre maker and a lover of punk, is punk an ingredient at all, a theme? Like, how do you think that punk alchemy works within the work that you do?
Yeah, I think it kind of filters through a lot in the aesthetic. I think there's a sort of rough and readiness to it, and there's definitely a lot of the soundtrack, like in the making of it, was definitely present in my kind of personal playlist to write to, and because it is part of me, it's sort of present in that way, I suppose. And yeah, that sort of like rantingness ish of it. If I had my way, there'd be more. But also I don't play any instruments, so it's not quite gig theatre. But I think, yeah, it's that kind of like iconoclasticness of it, that irreverence of taking the piss out of things that may be considered sacred as well.
There's stuff in there that you say, please don't tweet about this, talk about this, and we won't go into specifics. But as much as iconoclastic and you are attacking the powers that be, there's quite a dangerous show, right? Like, you don't want to get targeted for some of the things that you're saying. Is that conversations you've had with your team, yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it becomes a responsibility of a collaborative effort, because when I first started making it, I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Also, because I have two different names, because my Iranian citizenship is in a totally different name. But because I am collaborating with other Iranians, it was like, oh, okay, no, actually. It's about their care as well, and also family members and that are present still in Iran. And so it's just making sure that none of that is out in the ether for anyone, especially now, for people to get hold of, to use, not even against me, but to use against people in Iran that are associated with. And so that's where that kind of come from. So otherwise I'd be like, I don't care. Yeah.
And just last couple of questions then. One is a chance to plug some of the stuff you talk about in the show. You mentioned that male steelworkers go on strike because they're for women's rights, and there's a hashtag going around. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that's important to, why is that important to platform? We know it's important to platform, but in your words, why is that like in the DNA of the show?
So I think with the current woman life freedom movement in Iran, what I think is really interesting, and what I think a lot of people can learn from it, is how there's no whataboutissery. And so I use the Steelworkers Union as an example, because they go on strike and they make the demands on behalf of woman life freedom, because they understand that if the women are oppressed, we are too. And there's no like, what about us? You know, there's people that have been unfortunately executed, arrested, that are men that are chanting woman life freedom, and meanwhile, Black Lives Matter. Well, what about us? And it's just like, oh, come on. And I just think that's why it's important to me. It's a really good lesson. And what we're trying to do whilst we're up here as well is to get people to join in on that solidarity. And so if you look up the show page, there'll be sort of more clear instructions on this, but the condensed version is we're collecting videos of people saying woman life freedom in whatever language they have, and that will make a literal digital wall of solidarity for the Pleasance at Edinburgh Fringe. And there's plans I can't quite officially announce because it hasn't been signed off yet, but the plan is to eventually have a big video of all those kind of things compiled together, so it's just like woman life freedom cut in between lots of people, that goes out in time for Massa Amini's 1 year anniversary, and also the anniversary of the Women Life Freedom movement, which is on the 16th of September. So that's our aim.
If you could introduce any song, what would it be for our listeners?
There's loads of like British punk that obviously I would love. In this case, I think I'm going to go for some Iranian hip hop, which is actually the most punk genre there. I think it's really political, really like just gets ya. There's an artist called Toumaj, who is he was in solitary confinement. He was nearly executed due to worldwide coordinated rallies. He's now been given 6 years in prison instead, but he has a song with a collaboration with a woman called Justina. It's called Shalag. I'll send this to you because the spellings are a bit weird, but it's called Shalag, and it's by Toumaj and Justina, about saying fuck the sort of hijab laws. And the hijab laws, I need to clarify, in Iran does not just mean the headscarf. There's a whole other code of conduct around it. So yes, that's what I'm going to go for.
با این نسل نمیتونید در بیافتید. این نسل یه نسل شیک یه نسل تیز یه نسل تازه نمیرقصه با سازی با ساز ما نمیسازه نسلی که جواب سلام فرماندتم نداده به شما بی اراده میگم به اونا نسل کامل زن و مردیم کنارم این یه اختاریه داره گشت ارشادتون گیره پشت ترافیک ماه بفرست چیره خارت اینجا هزار بی نقابه کف خیابونیم ولی ببین صدا میره تا به چی راستانا شناسی که اعلامیه داد این بار موی آزاد میرقصه توی بازی باد قانونی که پا میذاره رو تو بذار زیر پات با اختیار زندگی کن بگو حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب با اختیار زندگی کن بگو حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب اونه که دست حقی ران وقتش پس بدی موی آزاد میدرخشه دیگه تمام دوران بردگی تاوان آره ولی باشه میدیم میسوزیم ولی ستاره میشیم نه قانون و نه آیه دین آزادی رو توی تاله دیدیم حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب یه نسل شیک یه نسل تیز یه نسل تازه نمیرقصه با سازی با سازمان نمیسازه
حق ما از زندگی این تو سری نیست دیگه به زور نمیرم زیر این رو سری هیس آهای دشمنای 40 ساله مردم ایران دیگه وقتشه بفهمین این ظلم موندنی نیست به قول شیرزن گرگانی تو این لچک و این قوانین ارگانی موامم شلاق میشن تو صورت تالا خوددانی عربده بکش جر بده خودتو برام اسلحه بکش من ته جهنمو میخوام بدون شما تو هم اسم تو بنویس بارا سردر بهش تو کی هستی جانی یه مزدور سپاهی یه بسیجی مخلصی که نزدیک پایانی خیلی دوست داری که منو خاک کنی از ترس ولی خواب میبینی میشم واسات کابوس هر شب این اجباری که رو سرمه اسلحه شده حالا اشهد تو بخون بر از زاروی بدبخت حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب 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 حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب حجابی حجاب
Time to say goodbye, but how lovely to be back in the studio.
Yes.
And what a banging show. We're looking back over our exciting summer. I hope everyone also had a summer that was full of anger and hope. And please drop us a line and get in touch with us via vandalfactory.com. No?
Yeah. We own vandalfactory.com and vandalfactory.co.uk because I made a mistake.
You can't get it wrong. Get in touch. It's really brilliant when people let us know what they think about the show. Let us know if there's anyone, any artists or activists that you'd like to hear us talk to, any gigs that you've got coming up. It's really, really great to have people get in touch with us. So keep doing that.
You can hear all the songs on a little playlist on Spotify if you search for Vandal Factory playlist. So if you want to listen to all these bangers again, get on it. Keep fighting the good fight. Stay hopeful. Stay angry. Bye.
I love you. Goodbye.
Bye, Raptors.
Bye, Raptors.